Hey, good afternoon to everyone. I'm Dr. Umesh Chandra from the Center for Languages and Communication. This is a guest lecture for the students of BA second year students. They are in third semester, and in this lecture, we have invited Dr. Yogesh Kumar Dubey from Delhi University. He is assistant professor in Department of English, and he has expertise in critical theory, folklores, Shakespearean studies, and he has founded recently a forum for English studies, literary debates, philosophical discourse, and several other movements which are going on in the society, especially in the field of academics. He is a founding person for that forum. And recently, his talk on Avadhi folk tales and the participation of women, it has been recognized in the academia. Good afternoon to everyone. I'm Dr. Umesh Chandra from the Center for Languages and Communication. This is a guest lecture for the students of BA second year students. They are in third semester, and in this lecture, we have invited Dr. Yogesh Kumar Dubey from Delhi University. He is assistant professor in Department of English, and he has expertise in critical theory, folklores, Shakespearean studies, and he has founded recently a forum for English studies, literary debates, philosophical discourse, and several other movements which are going on in the society, especially in the field of academics. He is a founding person for that forum. And recently, his talk on Avadhi folk tales and the participation of women, it has been recognized in the academia. I request him that he will talk about the formation of critical theory and how these are important for the students of English literature, why they should study these critical theories and literary criticism. So this is the idea of today's guest lecture. I invite him to talk about all these things for the students.
Thank you, Dr. Umesh. Thank you, Dr. Umesh, for such a nice and generous introduction, which I think I don't deserve at such an early stage. But still, many thanks for that generous introduction. Thank you, ma'am, Sarju ma'am, for the correspondence you made during these days. I thank the whole of the department of the university for such a nice initiation for our students. So without delay, I would be just moving ahead with whatever I have got, understood, experienced about criticism, theory, and literature. It would be a kind of a general introduction, as I recall the topic formation of literary theory and criticism, something like that. So, before we focus on a particular theory of literature, it is essential that we should have an idea, an understanding of what is a theory, how is it made, and what role it plays in our lives, in the world of academia, in society, or whatever platform is there concerning our life. Then, what is criticism and how does it play its role? And then, what is literature? Primarily, I'm very much sure that students would be familiar with what is literature, how is it formed, but still, 2 seconds on that. Literature, which is from the very beginning told to us that is derived from Latin word litera, which means letter, and then letter, you know that alphabets just to tell us of what letters are. Then these letters give us words, With the words, we get sentences. I'm just moving from letter, litera to text, and then from there to literature. So from letter, from litera, we get words. Words get combined and create sentences, sentences, paragraphs. Okay. What is text? Text is derived or refers to textile. Okay. Fabric, it denotes to fabric. So from letter we get words, from words sentence, and from there we get what? Fabric or text. And now this text is again divided into different disciplines, and one of that is known as literary discipline or literature. What is the ground on which anything is identified as literary or non-literary? So initially we had a very clear-cut division between what is literary and what is not. I hope I'm audible. Am
Yes,
I?
you are very.
Okay.
Yeah, you are very much audible.
Thank you. Thank you. So initially there was a clear-cut division between, or deemed that this is literary and that is not. But with the arrival of deconstruction, we find that everything gets amalgamated and we do not find a clear-cut division. Watertight compartment division, we do not find. Yes, it is said that in this discipline we have less literary nature, while in the discipline which is recognized as literature proper, those elements which make something literary is highly intensive. So what are those elements which become the subject of analysis in literary criticism and literary theory? Literariness. The first thing is literariness. How does, from where this literariness arise? From where does it come into force? We have two elements of any text. One is that very text, that is the letters, words, and sentences. The other one is the content or message. So, text, words, and the message or content, which we call. Now, when we are focusing on words or textual entity of literature, textual entity of a composition identified as literature, we call this kind of enterprise text-oriented enterprise, text-oriented approach. Right now, I'm just putting a pause for our student before I embark on the boat of what is theory. I'm just putting a pause that for text, we have textual approach / for content, we have content-oriented approach or formal and content-oriented. That kind of thing I would be just picking up again. Now, what is theory? This was bit about literature. Okay, literariness element is there in literature. That comes again, literariness is achieved by means of either words, by means of that message also, what is stated there, how is, what matters is this how is very important. Anyway, coming to theory. What is theory? In general, theory, I believe, is a faith, a belief. Okay, this faith, this belief is based on a number of constituents. When we take shelter to some scientific approach, our belief becomes a scientific. Objectivity is assessed. We find objective approach, which was the intention of the new criticism. Basically, formalism also tried to be objective, and for that only they focused on whatever is visible, whatever can be perceived, sensed by each and everybody alike. This was their belief only. Okay, like sun, sun. So yes, in major part, many of us or all of us have similar kind of sharing experience, similar kind of response to sun. What the sun is, what the moon is. Okay, but still, if you are at North Pole, at South Pole, obviously your perception of the sun can't be the same, which should be of the person, of the people, of the society living at the Capricorn, Cancer, okay, or equator, likewise. So, yes, theory. So, theory is a belief, a faith, and theory appears or theory is applicable to a large body, a bigger space it takes. That is to say, the concept of mass. Okay, mass is not going to change of any object, but weight would be changing. Okay, so theory of mass, likewise theory of literature, likewise theory of politics. Theories again are based on two things. One, which are sensed, perceived through senses. The other, which can't be perceived, which are abstract, but yes, which are understood. That is human behavior kind of thing. In economics, we read or we know that theory of human behavior, consumption. It is believed that if something goes low in its price, the demand increases. Okay. So reciprocal relationship. If price goes high, the demand decreases. This is something which is perceived, But yes, it appears to be universal. But again, it appears only. In all cases, it cannot be universal. For example, the price of poison. That is usefulness, benefit, if one is derived. So that aspect is also there. Okay, I have taken this example from human behavior found in economics. Okay, in the case of wheat, yes, it is applicable, but in the case of rotten wheat, it is not applicable because that becomes poisonous, useless. Okay, coming to, so theory is what? That is, it is an assumption based on certain observation and which in general appears to be applicable to a wider space in a particular segment. For example, theory of literature, yes, it would be applicable to literature. Suspension of disbelief, for example, suspension, theory of suspension of disbelief. Yes, when we watch a movie, we have to suspend suspension of disbelief is to be suspended. Rather, imagination is to be brought in. Okay. Otherwise, we won't ever be accepting the actor Amitabh Bachchan playing different roles. So this is suspension of disbelief. Our theater won't be turning into a scene of Ireland, England, India, Delhi, Mumbai kind of thing. Okay, suspension of disbelief is applicable to the world of literature. Okay, coming to criticism now. What is criticism? Criticism, again, criticism, we have two kinds. One is personal criticism, the other is theoretical criticism. Personal criticism, you base on your personal understanding. For that, you need not to go to be a theorist or an academician. You go to watch a movie, you pass a kind of judgment. Thus, the movie was not good, the movie was very good. But when it goes to the theoretical section or film study section, they have their own judgment, okay, their own criticism. Criticism is to focus on vices and virtues of anything. Okay, so This is a short definition of what is literature, what is theory, and what is criticism. Okay. Now, coming to proper literary theory. Literary theory is deemed to be the tool which contains a number of different approaches for evaluation and sometimes for construction also of literary pieces. Okay. As initially, coming back to that text and literature, then message and this word or form. Okay. We have two things, two elements. One is, as I said, text, the inside world. Okay. The text is all in front of you. You read a poem, you understand a poem, and you enjoy that, that's all. That doesn't affect you. Okay. That doesn't affect you in the sense that it is not going to disturb any of the thing of your life. Okay. Imagination plays their role. And the other one is that is intrinsic and extrinsic. Okay. Extrinsic, that is outside world. So inside world and outside world. Intrinsic and extrinsic approaches. Majorly, I believe that there are two broader approaches to literature, any piece of art. One is intrinsic approach, which looks into the text, inside the text, and it does not affect or believe that the meaning of a text is going to be affected by the outward reality. Just I talked about suspension of disbelief. You go with that disbelief. You do not compare that with reality. That is folktales. Folktales, in fairy tale. There is no fairy. But still we enjoy. Intrinsic. Okay. And extrinsic. In extrinsic, what is that? The whole society. That is the person who created the work, author. Then we have the person who is going to read that text, reader, okay, and then the society which stimulated the author to create something, to write something. Okay. If I can recall correctly, Hippolyte Adolphe, H-A-T-A-I-N-E, talks of three elements: race, R-A-C-E, moment, and milieu. Sorry. He believes that race, moment, and milieu should be kept in mind while analyzing a text. That is to say, the theoretical tool used for evaluation or criticism of a particular text should be with these elements: race, moment, and milieu. Why? Because he maintains that we reflect, or an author reflects or is under the influence of his race, that is to say nationality, moment, time, at what time one is doing something, writing, and milieu, the whole environment. Likewise, you see, when there was demonetization, a number of skits were performed. Or the concern, the center of writing, of editorials in newspaper, etc., sorry, was demonetization. Now you can see pandemic. This pandemic is not confined to race. This has engulfed the whole humanity, whole earth. But still, whenever the person would be writing something, keeping in mind this pandemic, the person can think about the surrounding with which he or she is familiar. So again, that race would be coming there, coming in. Okay. Something apart from this race, through media, the race with which one is familiar. moment, that is time when one is doing something, that would also be reflected. And milieu, this environment. Not only that, this pandemic is there. Not only the focus on pandemic and its direct output, but also indirect ones. That is, after pandemic, what could be there, or during pandemic, what is going on there. Okay, so race moment and milieu, though later on by Morse Peckham, it was further redefined, and Morse Peckham says, I would be coming back to text, author, reader, and context or society. Okay, but before that, something is needed to supply a support to this. Morse Peckham talks further. He elaborates it further. Race moment and milieu, he does not confine only to race movement and milieu, a 20th century critic, Morse Peckham. He talks of, I have just made a kind of word, S-U-R-I, Suri, S-U-R-I, S, situation, U, that is utterer, the person who speaks, R, responder, your society or reader, and I, interest. Okay, S-U-R-I, situation, utterer, responder, and interest. Again, we see that race, moment, and milieu, it has been broadened under these rubrics. Situation obviously would be giving. Okay, you see, situation that during British India, we find our works reflecting on the then situation. Okay, utterer, that is the speaker, author, wants to express, that is subjectivity. Okay, you see your prelude, the prelude, okay, by Wordsworth. Again, romantic, with romantics we find this highly intensified. Then in Victorian age also, David Copperfield, you can see, that is biographical, autobiographical, I mean, okay. Or Keats also, in his Hyperion, we find initially Hyperion and both are, he has written two Hyperions. Hyperion, the fall of Hyperion. In Hyperion, he is trying to model his poem, his epic, after Milton. But somewhere he realizes that he is losing that autobiography or utterer. What does the utterer want to say? Okay. So he starts writing another, okay, and Hyperion, the fall of Hyperion, by the title, the fall of Hyperion, he writes, and there he starts with his interest. Interest is the last one, though. His interest was to talk about poet in general, and likewise Wordsworth is also in his The Prelude. He is also talking about his own self. Though it is epic, he does not talk about much about the French Revolution. Yes, episodic entry is there of French Revolution. He does not take any political issue. He talks about himself. Okay. So utterer, then responder. Chetan Bhagat. Okay. If Chetan Bhagat is in demand, people would be reading him. So Chetan Bhagat would be writing. Okay. So this is what is the demand? Commercial. It leads to commercial section. Okay. And then interest. What is that? Interest. Utterer and interest, they are very closely related. What is my perception about interest? When one becomes utterer, so one is directly expressing, directly, knowingly, consciously. But interest, when it is interest, here indirect or unknown. T.S. Eliot, he talks about suppression of subjectivity. Yes, but again, he does not only says about suppression of subjectivity. He says emotions are not to be expressed, but what kind of direct emotions are to be banned? He talks of significant emotions. What is significant emotions? Emotions which are transformed into some other entity seemingly by means of using some object, okay, objective correlative, so that those emotions can be easily conveyed to other. He wanted only to find objectivity, and therefore, see, my love is like a red rose. So at least the confinement is there of red. Only suppose my love is like a rose. So what rose? It could be jasmine, it could be yellow flower, yellow rose, it could be lotus, anything. So that confining of a color to some extent, it is not possible to exactly confine all the emotions into one entity which can be perceived by all in exact same way. When one says red, unless you show the red, you see what happens on theater. Theater is play is taken to the least literary form. Why? Because imagination is curtailed, controlled on theater. You know, when you read a poem, you read words, and according to your imagination, you give those words a meaning. You have your own rose. My love is like a red rose. You read, and according to your own understanding, your own experience, your preference, you choose the imaginary rose, red rose. But when it is on the stage, if Amitabh Bachchan is playing the role of Hamlet, you'd always be thinking of Amitabh Bachchan in the role of Hamlet when you are reading a text. Unless you go for another, after that again some other play where we have different actors playing the same role, but all the time that influence would be there on you. So there you are not free to imagine Hamlet somebody else. Okay, this is the reason that the play is deemed to be least literary form. Okay, so coming back to our SURI, situation, utter, responder, and interest. So here we come, keeping all these in mind, we come to our possible intrinsic and extrinsic approaches. What could be there in intrinsic and what could be there in extrinsic? Now in intrinsic, which is text oriented, only text is there. Okay, the poem is there, text is there, words are there on the pages, you have to read and interpret and understand. Okay, so in text what do we have? Philology. Philology was very much in demand during Renaissance time. 19th century was also highly intensified with this approach, philological. What is done there? In philological approach, focus is on correctness, editing. Okay, that is formal features. Only grammatical rules kind of thing, I can say, grammatical rules or this clear typological error should not be there kind of thing. Renaissance, during Renaissance what happened, you know that during Renaissance we had that printing press, etc. Okay, so obviously it was going to be in fashion, in high demand. Then rhetoric, that persuasive power. Again, see, rhetoric plays a very important role because politics is there. In politics, if you can see, if you can recall, suppose you have read Tempest, Julius Caesar. Okay, oratory plays an important, not in Tempest oratory, but rhetoric, yes. In Julius Caesar, okay. Oration, oratory. Oratory, for oratory in society, if there is oratory, what is important? That persuasiveness, and that comes from rhetoric. Okay, style, how something is said. Man, dress maketh a man, likewise the style maketh a man. Then in text oriented intrinsic approach, we have what? Formalism, Russian formalism. Okay, new criticism. Okay, formalism, new criticism. Then we can talk about semiotics. Okay, deconstruction. All these are text-oriented approaches. That is to say, for them, text is all. Beyond text, nothing is there. The whole world is text. Okay, we have in front of us a text, so we need not go outside the text. Just then, this is intrinsic. Extrinsic, I stated that we have reader. In the creation of a text, what is the text becomes suppose center. Then it is created by an author. It is created in a society. Okay, and it is created for readers. Society. In a society. In society for society. By a society person. By a social person. Okay. Author. So what are these? Are extrinsic approaches. Intrinsic, textual. Extrinsic, author oriented, reader oriented, and context, why something was done, why something was written. So author oriented theories or criticism focus on what? Biographical element. Okay. When someone is writing something keeping in mind that one wants to reflect oneself, then biographical theory would be leading the person to write. When the evaluator or critic is there and the critic tries to understand the perspective with which the text is written, the intention, then what does the evaluator do? The evaluator does. The evaluator uses certain possible tools, author-oriented, which are such as biographical criticism, okay, psychoanalytical approach, phenomenology, okay. In reader, the next point is reader in extrinsic, that keeping in view the society, who is going to be the reader. Reception theory, how something got accepted, received, how something to make receivable by the society. Reception in history, that also plays important role. History of reception is also to be taken into consideration. If some kind of thing is written by me, composed by me, whether it would be accepted in the society or I would be beaten bitterly. That also happens in the case of movie. You just see. Censor board we have for that reason only. From censor board we come to, or from past we come to understand what kind of thing, what kind of artistic activity, creativity would be accepted. So for that again, reception history. Okay. Then reader response theory, reader response criticism. Okay. Which believes that meaning lies within the eyes of the beholder. Okay. That is, what you create is not meaningful unless the reader accepts, and the meaning is given by the reader. It is the reader who will decide your success as an artist. Okay. So keeping in mind the reader, when we talk about reader, that again will include all. Reader means of what race the reader is, of what time the reader is, of what milieu the reader is. Okay. Just for the youth of today, if some movie is just set into some cinema, and this is kind of some Sati or Savitri kind of thing. Okay, suppose you go back. But do you think the reader is going to accept that? It would be a failure. Unless it is fashioned again, unless it is presented in a new fashion. Okay. So that is to say, again, everywhere those points which were raised by either Morse spectrum or by HA10, they appear significant, they appear palpable, they appear to be kept behind our mental frame. We have to keep that into mind. Okay. So reader response to criticism. A number of critics are there in all, and we do not have much time though, but still, whatever is possible would be included. Then we find what some stimulation is there, why something was done. For that, I'm talking about social. Okay. When it comes to why, for that why, our owners, the author's owner is also there possible, but it is not in isolation. It is in association with the society of which he or she is a part. So context. We have different context-oriented theories, context-oriented approaches. See, such as literary history, keeping in mind literary history. That is also what kind of literary history has been there of a particular society, of a particular race. Okay? That is kept in mind. Then Marxist literary theory, we have a tool. Something is created, some text is there, we can have different approaches for the analysis. Okay. Some tool could be there to support the, and some other tools would be negating the content of the text. Okay. For example, if something is written by a person who is capitalist, some poem, some drama, some performance, some novel is there which reflects on the issues, on the life, on the problems faced by the industrialist, then the literary theory using the tool of Marxism would be denunciating that. Okay. But again, if some literary theory finds, as I talked about literary history or just literary tool, literariness, find that the text is well written, well composed, and the focus is on its literariness, elements of literariness, then justification would be there, or those aspects of the work would be praised. Okay. Capitalist theory would be admiring. Okay. Feminist literary theory, Marxism, even in Marxism, when feminism comes, it challenges Marxism. Criticism of theories, criticism of criticism, theory of theories, all this is possible. Theory of literary theories. Suppose feminism. Feminism is the concern, the basic concern of feminism is what? Justification with women or equality of men and women. Okay. This is women. But Marxism, see, is it possible for both of them to go together? Is it? No, it is not. Though attempts have been made, just missing the name of some, Rosa Luxemburg, yeah. Rosa Luxemburg tries to get the support of feminism also. And what is the ground? The ground, Rosa Luxemburg, a Marxist, supports or views or divide. When it comes to the Marxist or Marxism, it divides the world into two domains. One is of capitalist, bourgeois, and the other is of labor proletariat kind of. Okay. So, labor class and capitalist class. This is the division of the world by Marxism. Now, think about feminism. It is not going to address the world or look at the world into these two domains, capitalism, capitalist and labor class? No. Proletariat and bourgeois? No. For feminism, the world would be into two domains, leaving the third gender, male and female. Okay, their concern is male and female. So how is it possible to go together? Rosa Luxemburg or Marxists to come ahead with the idea that women from upper strata of society are parasite on parasite. They depend on their men, okay, upper strata men, and upper strata men depend on lower strata society, lower class, labor class. Okay, so from labor class, the man from the upper class extracts, and from that extraction, the woman sucks or gets her nourishment. This is Marxism. So it is not possible for feminism to go together, and therefore I say that, and this Rosa Luxemburg company says that says that women and women are not equal. That is, proletariat women and bourgeois women, they are different. Okay, they are creating a kind of gap. Okay. So coming to this feminist literary theory or Marxist literary theory, they can't, I mean, same text from different perspectives would be getting different kind of justification, criticism. Then we have historicism, new historicism, cultural history. So many things are there. Okay. Now, this I may term to be a kind of social introduction in a nutshell. Okay, in a nutshell, it may be able to be an introduction of theory or criticism. Now, keeping in view the time restraint, I will focus a little on something that why, on why. I will talk about an essay written by Wimsatt and Beardsley, very famous essay. And Verbal Icon, it got published in 54, if I'm not mistaken, 1950. Okay. But before that also it had come around the 58 somewhere. Anyway, so what is there? That intentional fallacy. Okay. Intentional fallacy. What is fallacy? Error, mistake, intentional, keeping it. So literature, when we think about any poem and its a generative intention, why was it generated? Probably we do not do justice according to Wimsatt and Beardsley. Okay, they maintain that a poem should not be an entity, an artistic composition should not be evaluated in the light of extrinsic approaches. Extrinsic, that is, whatever was written by the author, it was written at that time, and the author is no more the same. With the passage of time, we all keep changing our personalities, okay, our thought. So what they maintain, that author should not be bothered at all. That is, author is dead. Okay, Rola Barthes, the death of the author. Author is no more. Then the focus is on especially intention. And they say that if there was any specific intention by the author of a work, a poem, that intention should easily be decoded from the text itself. Okay, and to know of that intention, we should not get out of the text to know about his life. We would be making a mistake according to them. Okay, That is to say, the text is there, we have to read the text, and the text has certain things which are in public domain. What? Language, linguistic rules, grammar. This is all shared. This is all shared. We have the same language used in a text. We should read that. Yes, we can get out of the text for certain reasons only. What are those ones? If we want to know certain mystic use of some words or mystic use of language. Okay. Symbolism. Suppose one is reading a literary essay and about by some author, and it appears very simple, but still it is not the thing which it appears on the surface. It has another meaning. I will take the example of animal form. Animal form. Animal form, a child, a kid of third, fourth, fifth standard can read and enjoy a fable. Okay, it's a fable, an animal fable. Can enjoy, and there won't be any problem in understanding that. But we know that it is a political satire on Russia. Okay, we know, if we are familiar with that political event, political incident of Russia, of Stalin, of Trotsky, if we know, then we would be automatically deriving another meaning, that this is an allegory. Okay, that the text, though it talks about animals, it talks about the owner of a farm, Mr. Jones, it talks about swine, Napoleon and all. But in fact, this all is modeled after an incident, political incident already taken place at Russia. Then we have another meaning, allegory, allegorical. Okay. So, that is to say, and it is not essential. According to intentional fallacy, we need not go outside the text. The text is there about animal farm, animal fable it is, read and enjoy. Yes, they also say that if some notes are there by the author, then for that one can get out of the text, get the meaning of those certain footnote, etc., and then come back and look into the text in the light of that only. It is not desired at all that the shift now from the text should be something extrinsic. No. The Wasteland by T.S. Eliot. It is a collage not only of content but also of different languages, English and other European languages, and Sanskrit as well. It ends with Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So to understand what is the meaning of Shanti Shanti Shanti, one has to, suppose it is read by British and he, she does not know what is Shanti, then one has to come out of the text, get the meaning of Shanti, and then enter back the text and then see. So this is what that notes, closing notes, ending notes supplied by the author can be of use. But again, everything is to be correlated with the text. It is not to be thought that we are going to find the intention of the text from something outside. Okay, some letter written by. Some letter written by. In the case of prelude, intention was something, but the result came something different. The intention was, as per the persuasion, inspiration by S.T. Coleridge for Wordsworth, to create or to compose Recluse, a philosophical song, the Recluse. Okay, for the Recluse, he started with a short preamble, prelude. And what happened? The Recluse could not be completed. It got only one, home at Grasmere, kind of, only one book. It remained incomplete. And the second section, it came in 1814, missing the title of the second section right now. And the prelude in 14 books. prelude. You see, the intention was something and the result was quite different. And therefore, the author of Intentional Fallacy, Wimsett, this Wimsett and Beardsley, say that intention for intention, if we are going to examine any work in the light of intention of the author, and that intention we have clued somewhere outside the text itself, then it may be misleading us. We won't be getting to the intended meaning. A text full of abusiveness and claimed that somewhere in some letter 2 years back, the author wrote that I want to write a philosophical song, I want to write something patriotic. After 2 years, he did not think about that. Some mishappening took place with him. He found change in political scenario and he got against the complete idea and he started writing against the place, against the country, against the nation. So, should be an abusive work? Can we deem? Should we analyze this text in the light of a letter written 2 years back, which claims that the text was with this intention? No. Okay. So now we do not have time, and I think I should just put a pause here with a short line, with a closing couplet, not that verse in the following 2 lines. That theory is a tool used by men, women, or people working in the field, different fields. When it comes to literature, men of literature, people of literature, okay, to examine the vices and virtues of a work. Okay, theory could be of two kinds: personal theory, personal criticism. Okay, personal theory leads to personal criticism, and some social theory that is something which come into the society, or objective theory. For example, new criticism is not an individual's theory. In the making of new criticism, a number of critics contributed and theorists contributed. T.S. Eliot, then I.R. Richards, then F.R. Lewis. These are the three major contributors for new criticism. Okay, the structuralism, you know, Ferdinand de Saussure becomes the first one with whom we can deconstruction, post-structuralism, Derrida. So those are the things which make, that is unlike personal theory. Anyway, I believe I should leave here because at 12 again you have another webinar. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Umesh ji. Thank you very much for bearing with me.
So thank you so very much for this beautiful, brilliant lecture, and you in fact incorporated all those elements of literary criticism and literary theory, which are very much important for the students of B honors. In fact, those who are budding student, young minds who are supposed to learn the basics of literary theory and how they will develop their understanding towards literary criticism, and they will able to understand all the literary pieces, either it is drama, poetry, novel, whatever it is. So thank you very much.
Okay.
I invite you.
Okay. Dr. Yogesh, thank you so much. And it was such a nice presentation. I would say I enjoyed listening to you. And I would like to thank Umesh for organizing such a wonderful webinar, I would say. Like, linguistics is very close to me, and again, language and literature. So listening to the very things close to me really enriches me also. And I'm sure the students must have gained a lot. Due to time constraint, we have to limit ourselves. So thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you to all of the students and colleagues to participate in this guest lecture. Because of time restriction, we are not able to continue it much. Next time, we will try to make it a little bit more. Thank you all.
Thank you.